Good morning, everyone. I am Janella Hamilton, and you're watching BC Now on CBC. We are coming to you live from Vancouver City Hall this morning, where in just a few minutes we are expecting to hear about some major changes that could be coming to the Vancouver Park Board. In just a couple minutes, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim will be making an announcement and is expected to put forward a council motion asking the provincial government to amend the Vancouver Charter, which governs the city. The full extent as to what the mayor is asking for is still unclear, but after today's press conference, we'll have a much clearer picture, and of course, we'll have a full analysis with our municipal affairs reporter after the conference, as well as members with City Council. But for now, let's just take a listen into the press conference, which should be starting any second now. All right, it seems like we're just waiting for the mayor to show up at this moment, but very shortly we are all very, standing by as to what he has to propose today. Of course, there's a lot of process to this, so we'll have a full in-depth analysis of everything after the press conference, and I can hear he is walking up to the podium right now, so we'll take a lesson in.
That's a little dangerous, doesn't it? All right. I'll just throw it down. Good morning, everyone. All right. Wow, big crowd today. I don't think I'm going to crack a joke. Good morning. I do want to thank them for their generosity and their hospitality and the love and the care they show this land that we get to live, work, and play on. And I truly believe it's incumbent upon all of us to learn from the past and learn the true history as to what's happened on these lands. If we do that, we're going to build an incredibly bright future full of love and prosperity for all of us. I do also want to acknowledge our councillors that are here today, both on stage, and I see Pete and Adrian back there. And the hard work, we stand shoulder to shoulder together. I also want to acknowledge our three park board commissioners that are here on stage. I do want to give a special shout out to them because, as you're going to find out, they are really putting the city's interests and the interests of our parks and recreational facilities above their personal interests. I also do want to give on our elected park board who we've been great, and we've been working incredibly hard to build incredible parks and recreational facilities in the city of Vancouver. So the reason we're here today is to look at the future of Vancouver's parks and recreation facilities and to affirm our commitment to making Vancouver's parks and recreation facilities the best on the planet. And in fact, for anyone who loves our parks and always want parks to be parks and always want golf courses to be golf courses in the city of Vancouver, you are going to love what we're going to be talking about next. Today, we are going to take the long overdue step that will ensure that our parks and recreational facilities are able to serve our community to their fullest potential. It's vitally important that at this moment in time that we take bold action to elevate the care of these essential spaces and bring a new level of accountability that will ensure not just the long-term viability, but the long-term growth and success of our parks and recreation services. That's why I'm going to be bringing a motion forward to council next week that will ask the province to amend the Vancouver Charter and to eliminate the requirement for an elected park board. And this will bring parks and recreation services under the oversight of City Council. Now, make no mistake about it, what we've learned in recent years is that how we've been managing our parks and recreation facilities just doesn't work. In fact, the current setup makes it even harder to manage and grow our parks and recreation services. Now, the system is broken, and no amount of tweaking will fix it. In our pursuit of progress and value for the people of Vancouver, we're aligning the management structure for parks and recreation services with how it's done in literally every single city across North America, with the exception of Minneapolis. And I'm assuming the reason for that is every other city in North America has figured out that this just doesn't work. In fact, we don't see people clamoring to institute an elected park board in these cities. The steps that we're announcing today will allow us to manage Vancouver's parks and recreation facilities more collaboratively and in harmony with the city's broader perspectives. Our parks are our jewels, and our commitment to preserving these green spaces remains unwavering. This change is about managing these spaces more effectively, not about compromising them. This change will ensure that our parks and recreation facilities finally get the care and attention that they deserve, that they can be restored to the gems that they once were. Beyond the opportunities for improved services, we know that adopting this new streamlined governance approach will result in significant operational efficiencies, which will free up a huge amount of staff time, which means more things will get done quicker with existing staff levels, which avoids future incremental operating costs. In fact, this change will yield millions of dollars in savings, and every dollar saved will be reinvested back into our parks and recreation facilities, strengthening the fabric of our community, enhancing the vibrancy of Vancouver, and allowing us to live in a Vancouver that's not just a place to live, but a place to thrive. Now, thriving means having spaces that just aren't office blocks and houses alone. It's our precious communal spaces like parks that brings us together, and it's for this reason that our commitment to improving our parks and recreation facilities is unwavering. Now, let me be incredibly clear here. The decision to introduce this motion was not made in isolation. We have the backing of a wide range of community leaders, including those who have served on the elected park board in the past, who also acknowledge a need for change. Their support speaks volumes about the positive impact that we expect to make in our community. Now, I believe in this vision and the strategy that I'm advancing today, and I promise that as Mayor of Vancouver, I will stand by this commitment. But my voice is only one of many voices. The transition to this new model will be inclusive and transparent. So we're going to be establishing a Parks and Recreation Transition Working Group to ensure the smooth transition of responsibility for parks and recreation services from the current elected park board to City Council. The working group will have a mandate to coordinate the ongoing engagement and relationships with the park and recreation stakeholders and bring community perspectives to the forefront. Staff will also be working to develop a transition plan through which more operational efficiencies will be identified and developed. And for those who worry what this means to our cherished green spaces, know this. We're asking the province to increase, that's right, increase the protections of our parks to a unanimous vote in council plus a public referendum. We're making decisions about a clear vision for the future, a future where our parks and recreation facilities are protected, properly maintained, and enjoyed by all. Today, we're starting a new era for parks in the city of Vancouver. So thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Hi, good morning, everybody. As a former Vancouver Park Board Commissioner and a Park Board Chair myself, I have the unique experience of having sat at both tables, both as a Park Board Commissioner and now as a Vancouver City Councillor. And that has really allowed me to reflect deeply on the functioning and the structure of having the two different bodies on both sides. And so I can honestly say this morning that I have seen the ongoing structural issues with having a separate elected park board and having two elected bodies in one city. If I was to put it simply, the current structure has not worked as effectively as it could have in a long time. And like many people, community stakeholders and community groups and users of the parks and the recreation facilities, I've heard the ongoing frustration and dissatisfaction from community on this, and I do believe that it is time to take action and to chart a new path forward while ensuring that our parks and our green space are protected and retained for all residents to enjoy for generations to come. And let me be clear, I would not personally be supporting this move unless there was a stringent protections put in place in order to protect that green space for generations, and I am happy to say that that is what is being proposed here today. Let me give you some examples of having two separate elected bodies and a separate park board. If you are an event or a festival like the Honda Celebration of Light, or grassroots organizations that are looking to put on fun outdoor events or music events in your parks, you now have to go to two separate bodies to get different sets of permits. If you're Moby Bike Share, and you're working to provide active transportation in our city, you have to have two different sets of contracts and legal agreements, work through two different processes, go to two different sets of meetings in order to site your stations. And we know that there have been situations where we have had a years-long wait in order to site a station at a local community center at a time when we are working to get people into active transportation and out of their cars. If you're East Van Little League and you have raised money yourself to contribute to upgrades to fields, to improve batting cages so that kids can have a better softball experience, you have been stymied in providing that contribution and moving that forward. If you are the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Garden Society, you have been waiting for 7 years, since 2016, in order to secure an updated lease agreement, which has compromised the maintenance of that absolute classic jewel, which is the only classical Chinese garden of its kind, or the first one, I should say, outside of China. So I also want to note, too, that this has a positive impact and will have a positive impact from a capital planning process. I think it's no surprise that delivery and completion of upgraded and new parks and recreation facilities has stalled. There has been a lot of planning, but we haven't gotten a lot of those over the line, and the residents of Vancouver deserve better, and I believe that there's going to be better opportunities to do that with aligning with one elected body. So again, to be clear, I am happy that Council is taking this charge and this bold action. I thought about this a lot, and I believe that this is the right thing to do. It will remove redundancies and allow for more effective delivery of services. It will allow us to elevate the quality of services and delivery in our parks, as Mayor Sim has said. And I want to point out that this council and this new council has already shown initiative in investing in historic areas in our city, like Chinatown and Gastown, and it is our full intention to do the same and to elevate the quality of parks and recreation facilities across our city. And I want to lastly say on a personal note that I served on the park board, and people do that because they are motivated with a lot of heart because they want to contribute to good outcomes in our city. I know that past park boards and commissioners that I have served with feel that way. I know that our current park board commissioners feel that way. I'm incredibly grateful for everybody's service. And I think that really what we need to do is look at the fact that this is the only one practically in North America. This is really about a construct moving forward. So I'm really grateful for all the work that they have done and the support moving forward. Thank you.
Good morning. The Park Board has had a long history of serving Vancouverites and protecting our city's green space. These parks are what makes Vancouver so special and unique. I'm honored to have served as a Park Board Commissioner, and I'm proud of the achievements over the last year. I believe this move is a step in the right direction. I'm excited to see the new next chapter for parks and recreation facilities in Vancouver. I know this is in the best interest of the community to see our parks and facilities be managed more efficiently and cohesively. I'm pleased that there will be a park and recreation transition working group that will ensure a smooth transfer of our parks to city management. I have complete confidence in our City Council to step up when it comes to protecting and bettering our parks and recreation facilities. Together, we will continue to protect and enhance Vancouver's natural beauty, ensuring that our parks remain vibrant and accessible for everyone to enjoy. Thank you.
And on that note, we're going to move to the question and answer component of today's press conference. We ask that you limit yourself to one question and one follow-up, and that all questions remain on topic today. Yes, Justin?
Hi, Mayor.
Hey, Justin.
I have so many questions.
You only get two.
Yeah, I know. The timeline for this, obviously, it's up to the province to decide on this. If they say that the current park board is allowed to finish off their elected term or requiring some sort of plebiscite or anything else to that, is that acceptable to you? What specifically are you hoping from the province in terms of the timing for this?
Yeah, like if I had a magic wand, it would happen by about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So the reality is we have been in discussions with the province, on this plus other charter changes, and we have a pretty positive working relationship. And the province, they've been great partners, and it's been our experience that they want to do what's best for the city of Vancouver. And so as soon as we file the motion, if it gets approved in council, then that starts the clock ticking, at which time they can work on it, and whatever they decide, they decide. But our estimate is approximately 6 months to get through the legislature and work on a transition.
And then the question, of course, is you promised during the last campaign that you had changed your mind on getting rid of the park board, that you wanted to have commissioners that could make it work. What do you say to the voters who trusted you on that promise?
Well, I would say I'd actually point to Lisa Thibault's interview that she did with me on in May of 2022, and I was very clear. And if you pull up her written article, it says, we are going to try to fix it, and if we can't fix it, we will go to the province. So I would say, basically, we're doing exactly what we said. And that was back in May of 2022.
That's not exactly what you told me in July of 2022, but I'll let it.
Okay.
Global News?
Hi, Mayor. Emily here. We're seeing tweets from ABC commissioners that they've been removed from the party as of this morning. They weren't aware of this. They were told not to show up here today. So is it fair to say that anyone who doesn't agree with this decision will essentially be losing their jobs?
No, that's not the case at all. First of all, no one's been removed from the party. So that's the first thing. And yeah, look, it's a very emotional time right now. I want to acknowledge all the contributions of our park board commissioners, all of them. In an emotional time right now, I didn't think it would be, productive for them to be here at this point in time.
So you're saying that tweet is inaccurate?
I'm saying it is inaccurate. No one's been removed from the party. Right.
I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Here, Lisa.
Hi, we talked to the Premier yesterday and MI George Charles about your proposed motion, and none of them saying like they're aware of the proposal, and they also raised a concern about, for example, currently we see lots of homeless encampment in the park. So if this proposal does get passed, will there be any jurisdiction change in terms of how to move the homeless encampment going on or to relocate them?
Yeah, that's pretty complex. So if I understand the question, are you asking me about the province, or are you asking me about homeless encampments?
Both, yeah. They basically just mentioned that that's one of the elements they will be looking at it in terms of
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
Okay, so when it comes to the province, we've had discussions with the Premier's office. I don't know the extent to which they've had those conversations internally with other members, so that's really a question for them, but we've been in direct contact about this and other charter changes, so there will be no surprises. And like I said, we have a great working relationship with the province, and it's our experience that they really want to do what's in the best interests of the city of Vancouver and the residents, so we feel good about that relationship. When it comes to encampments and whatever, I think we're both clear that encampments aren't a long-term solution to the humanitarian challenges that we have. But that's a multi-jurisdictional, it's a very complex issue. What we're just talking about here is folding in the elected park board instead of having two levels or structures into one. And so I think from an operational perspective going out, it will be easier to navigate and come up with better solutions because there are less moving parts that get involved in that.
And in terms of follow-up is in terms of the park security, I know it might be a little bit further to discuss, but the public do want to know once the city take control, are we going to see more security patrol? For instance, people want to feel safe when they use the recreational area. They want to see any, bad accident happening there. So is there any talk on that part as well?
Yeah, the reality is that's independent of the announcement today. City of Vancouver is always concerned about safety in our streets, and so we've taken a multi-pronged approach. When it comes to hiring additional police officers and making a big initiative and making a commitment to hiring mental health workers to help with our opioid crisis, to help with housing with the province. So that's ongoing, that's independent of the announcement today, and we will continue to work incredibly hard to address those challenges.
CTV?
Good morning, everyone. Sinjin with CTV. I know many of you for a long time, and I know you believe in democracy. All of these commissioners were voted in by the public. So what about the will of the public?
Yeah, well, I think the will of the public, first of all, they want incredible parks. And when you have Stanley Park that has 1 out of every 4 trees dead, not only is it a blemish on the gem, it's a huge fire risk. We can lose that whole park. When you have the side of the building of the aquatic center falling off, when you have jurisdictional disputes over a water pipe on Spanish Banks where we can't get it fixed, and then all the issues that you have that Councillor Kirby-Young brought up. These are the challenges that we're addressing. We're being very transparent right now. The structure doesn't work. And you know what? We're going to make the bold decision to do this because our parks can't wait another 3 years. I'm going to answer your question. And we will let the voters decide in October of 2026. We will hold ourselves accountable. Make no mistake about it. If we don't do a good job, we are more than willing to have the voters in 2026 say, yeah, that wasn't a good job. On the flip side, when the parks are way better, when we make progress on our parks and people can see that, we're working on the parks and we've gotten rid of a very broken structure that was hindering it, I think people are really going to be, enthused. And the democratic process, what we're doing today, is within our jurisdiction. We are following the process. So, the voters elected us to make these decisions. And so that's what we're doing.
But the voters elected the park board commissioners to make decisions about the parks. They did that.
Yeah.
And they are elected until 2026.
Yeah.
So why not hold a referendum, at least doing that? And why not wait until 2026 instead of waving a wand through the park?
Well, this was really well thought out, and we are following the democratic process. At the end of the day, while the park board has their their whole structure, City Council has ours. We are following it, and we were democratically elected, and so we're.
So were they, sir. They were
Yeah.
elected as well, democratically,
Yeah.
by the public, the will of the public.
Yeah.
So why keep them out? This is
Public, well, if, obviously this is an election right now, but the public sentiment right now, if you look at all the polls that just came out in the last day, it looks like we're trending 80%. The public wants this as well. But those are unscientific. I'm not saying, at the end of the day, the public elected us to make bold decisions in the best interest of the City of Vancouver. We're doing that.
Glacier
And we're
Media?
holding ourselves accountable to that.
Glacier Media?
Mr. Mayor, just wanted for you to clarify this. 6 of the 7 members, commissioners, are members of your party. So you're saying the structure doesn't work, etc. Is this a direct criticism of your own?
No, not at all. You could literally drop 7 superstars into that process. Still doesn't work. The structure is broken. And so let me give you an example. when you have more than one person or one group accountable for anything, no one's accountable. We have two groups. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so that's why, you know, it's hard to see who has jurisdiction over what. That's why they're squabbling at a bunch of different things. Even the Auditor General mentioned that, you know, the long-term strategic objectives of the Park Board aren't in complete alignment with the city's objectives. We're talking about a structural issue here. We committed to the public that we were going to try to fix it. We elected a supermajority in that chamber. We can't fix it. It's not about the people. It's about the structure. And no amount of tinkering with that current structure is going to fix it.
I wonder if we could hear from one of the
Yes.
commissioners.
Yes, I would be
Sure that
glad.
I'm just assuming here that when you decided to run, you didn't think this was going to happen. So how are you feeling today?
Oh, I am actually feeling really good. We were elected democratically to look after the parks and recreation facilities of Vancouver. And I fundamentally believe that the decision that we're making today is the right one for the people of Vancouver. We are going to save a ton of money in terms of administration and, you know, behind the door cost, and we will be able to get things done much better and faster. It's been very frustrating for us to watch how slow the process is at Park Board. It takes about 15 years to build a park. I don't know why it has to take so long, and one of the reasons is because he has to go through a Park Board system, then he has to go through a city system. Park Board is very limited in its autonomy because it's not raising its own tax. So it's a very complicated, very complex, antiquated system that only exists because it's been created a long time ago. But I don't think anyone will miss us. I think they would miss their parks. They are missing their community. But they are not going to miss us. We're not making that difference. Doing this change will make things better. I'll give you a very specific example of the washroom at Spanish Bank West that has been non-functioning for at least a year. And when you ask at Park Board, well, it's a city pipe, and they haven't been able to get, you know, things done or whatever. I don't understand why it doesn't work. So the idea is that by having only one group of people responsible for everything, then you're not going to have this thing. It's not me, it's them, which doesn't work for city taxpayers. So I do think this is a great decision, and I'm a sitting Park Board, and I feel that we're actually doing what we were elected to do.
Radio Canada?
This is a question about budgets. I understand this decision is also to control revenue and expenditures. Do you have an amount of money, money figure that you would save by doing this change, maybe?
No, you know, today isn't about that. When we talk about now, there will be millions of dollars of savings, but that's an operational workflow. People not running around doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. But we're committed to having our people working on the right things. So that's when we talk about reinvesting those, spinning the wheels into actually doing stuff that's directly related to the parks.
One question about the city image. We understand the Park Board was one of the first order of budgets 130 years ago. Apparently, we are told that the image of Vancouver is also the image of the parks in North America. What kind of image the city will have now, and are you worried you will change the city reputation by making this change?
Yeah, I think we're going to change the city image for the positive, because we're not going to just, wave a flag and say we have a park board. We're actually going to, do the work and make our parks better. When people come to the city of Vancouver, they don't go, oh, you have an elected park board, but they do drive through Stanley Park, and right now they're seeing 1 out of 4 trees dead. And so let's have that conversation. Let's figure out why we can't fix that park, make it better. And so this is not a knock on any of the individuals that, selflessly served on the elected park board. It's about a system that's broken. And until we fix the broken system, we will never fix our parks.
Any other questions?
Yes, when you say there's millions going to be saved, can you not quantify that today?
No, we can't quantify it today. It's a big organization, but intuitively, look, I'm, you know, my background is I'm a lean certified black belt. I understand workflow. I've done it for about 3 decades now.
Okay,
And so,
that's not what I asked.
I know, but
How much and where is the money going to come from? Are people going to lose their jobs?
No.
It's going to be saving on labor costs?
No, so what, first of all, like every organization, it feels like on the planet, we are in a battle to attract talent, and we have people retiring in the city that we enthusiastically want to replace as well. So we want to keep all of our people. What we're talking about here is making their jobs better, fixing the workflow so they're, they can do their job more effectively. And we've proved this, actually. We just had a recent experience. Now, we had to go around traditional means and, the Stanley Park train. What we did was we fundraised. We had commitments for over like $1 million, and then we had help from the train experts who came in and helped our team. And I can tell you, when we're walking through Manitoba Yards, you should have seen the pride on the faces of our team that refurbished that train. And then you can see our members that are driving that train out there, and they now, like, if we scrap that train, they wouldn't have jobs. They now have jobs, and you know what? It's a community benefit, and we sold out, the first day, 27,000 tickets in 90 minutes, the next day in no time, and so we also made money for the burn fund. So these are all wins, okay? And so we're talking about the structure, making things better so we can unleash our people that are absolutely incredible. And those like operational efficiencies will be actually directed into making our parks better. That's what we're doing today.
Last question. Glacier Media.
Mr. Mayor, just help me understand what happens now with the park board commissioners. I realize that your motion still has to go before council, likely get approved because you hold the majority, and then it over to the province. But setting this up now, it's like the park board commissioners are like in a lame duck status right now. So what happens?
Well, all the current projects that are underway will continue. All future projects, it's almost as if nothing really changes in the sense that all future projects have to come to council anyways. So that extra step will be there until we eliminate that extra step. And make no mistake about it, we have 3 park board commissioners standing here right now that are helping us work on the transition plan. So they're actively engaged.
And that concludes today's press conference.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so we just heard from Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim about some pretty fundamental changes happening, or proposed, I should say, for the Vancouver Park Board. We have our municipal affairs reporter, Justin McElroy, here to break all this down for us. A lot of information coming out of today's press conference. Justin, talk to me a little bit about, what your takeaways were from.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a dramatic press conference. The mayor, more fiery than we usually see from him as well. But, he said a lot of things that were correct, that they are doing this process by the book, which is that you put forward a motion to ask council to request a change to the Vancouver Charter, which is ultimately up to the province to decide. He talked about the fact of the various overlaps that exist between what the park board does and what the city does, and how he thinks there could be efficiencies there. And he talked about his thought about the popularity there. He said these polls weren't scientific that were online, but it's true. Even the scientific ones have shown a majority of people think that Vancouver, having the only independent elected park board virtually in North America, is an anomaly. The question is going to be, number one, whether the province accepts his request, and number two, what the political fallout might be. And we've already started to see that today with 3 of his ABC Vancouver Park Board commissioners saying that they no longer feel that they're part of the party. They said they think they were booted out. The mayor says no. Whatever the case is, it's extraordinarily messy.
Absolutely, and a lot of people talking about the democratic process here today. What are the pros and cons to having a separately independent elected park board and city council?
Well, the argument has always been that having a separately elected one keeps a healthy tension in place and a balance to ensure that there's people directly elected to look over Vancouver's parks, to ensure that that land is protected so that it doesn't get developed, so that people with special passion are able to oversee it. The downside are things that we have seen over the last decade, splits between park board and council, and when that happens, a paralysis that sets in. A bunch of small issues that have happened over the years in terms of the amount of speed it takes the park board to do things because they are a separate entity as well. So there's plenty of reasons why Sim would want to go ahead with this. It was part of his original campaign promise in 2021 before he reversed it in 2022, 3 months before the municipal election. The question is going to be, the more the public hears about this, do they continue to like this as much as they seemingly have in the past, or do they start to turn? We're going to have to see.
All right, Justin, anything else that you think is really important for people to understand as to the next steps here?
The two big things that I'm going to be looking at is, number one, how enthusiastic the province sounds about this request, whether they grant it very quickly or whether they slow walk it, say perhaps that the park board has to finish out their term. And then the second one is what this says about ABC as a coalition of all sorts of people. You know, they've lost, it seems, half of their park board commissioners just today with this decision. Behind the scenes, there's always discussion and debate and sometimes disagreement. Good parties are able to hold all those people together. Whether this is a one-off anomaly for ABC or the beginning of a trend of cracks in their coalition, we're going to have to wait and see.
All right, Justin, thank you for your time today. Thanks for being here with us today. Now, there are more than 250 parks and recreation sites here in Vancouver and dozens of community centers that the city says that needs better management, needs to be taken care of in a better way. Here to talk to us a little bit about his thoughts is Vancouver City Councillor Pete Fry. Pete, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here.
A lot of information coming out of today,
Which
and I know
we just received along
I
with
was going to say you were a little blindsided by it as well. So what are your initial thoughts?
Well, you know, there's the claim that there's a lot of work that's gone into this. I'm not seeing it in this draft motion that's being presented by the mayor, but I think what we're seeing is an attempt to concentrate power in the mayor's office through this. And I think what's missing in the conversation that we've had just now in the press scrum is how we got here. So it appears that, we've got a number of ABC sitting park board commissioners who are not in attendance, and I understand that there was a bit of a schism, particularly over jurisdiction and who controls the parks. And so we saw, in particular, a decision that came from the mayor's office based on a campaign promise that they'd made to install an AstroTurf field in Moberly Park. That was rejected on principle by the park board until it went through the proper kind of consultation, neighborhood engagement, that kind of thing, which we would expect from any massive park project in a local neighborhood. So instead, the council overrode that decision. The ABC council overrode it and invested $17 million in an AstroTurf field in a neighborhood that hasn't explicitly asked for it or hasn't had the opportunity to consult and contribute on that decision. So I think that's where we're really seeing the schism. It's about control, and the mayor's clearly flexing that he wants to control all of it. And that's why you didn't see his commissioners here today.
Yeah, exactly. And let's talk a little bit about the fallout of this. If this change does go forward, you mentioned it a little bit, the control will be more so on the mayor and the ABC Majority Council.
That's the indication they're sending, that they want to set up the mayor's task force, and they're going to have a transition team, and that will be handpicked insiders, as we sort of saw those who are willing to go along versus those who are not willing to go along. And regardless, I think folks have complicated opinions about the park board. And the Auditor General has suggested that there could be a little bit more clarity around the roles and how the park board works. And certainly the decisions of an elected body may not necessarily resonate with everyone. But I think the reality is that the mayor did not run on abolishing the park board. He ran a slate of park board candidates. And as they were elected, but they don't seem compliant with the mayor's office, they're now getting shown the door, and the entire office is being scrubbed to be sent to the mayor's office for how they're going to manage it.
Yeah. So clearly, are you in favor or opposed or wanting to learn a bit more?
Well, I definitely want to learn a little bit more, but I think on principle, I think this is an anti-democratic move. I think that, the parks commissioners were elected by the public. There's an accountability to the public there. This wasn't something that the mayor had explicitly campaigned on, and now we're seeing power concentrated in the mayor's office, which is, I think, indicative of an ongoing trend that we're seeing with this mayor and council that seem to consolidate power, do a lot more backroom things, and abuse privileges like in-camera closed meetings to make decisions out of the public scrutiny. And we should have, as elected officials, we should be obliged to respond to public scrutiny, be transparent, be accountable for our actions. Not seeing that today, seeing this as being rammed through.
Anything I haven't touched on, Pete, that you think is really important for people at home who are not maybe understanding all the bureaucracy and the process that goes into something like this?
Sure. So the Park Board is a separately elected board, and they were elected along with council and mayor in October of 2022. The ABC, the mayor had run a suite of commissioners, 6 out of 7 possible spots, elected all 6. Clearly, he's not able to control them, so he's choosing to remove them. And this is one way to do it. We'll see how the province responds, but I think, largely the province will probably support this because it probably doesn't matter to them as much, and it's really going to be, the accountability will land on the feet of the mayor.
All right, Vancouver City Councillor Pete Fry, thank you so much for your time today. All right, well, it goes to council next week, the motion that Mayor Ken Sim is putting forward to have the province, asking the province rather, to amend the Vancouver Charter, which governs the city and which would allow for changes to the park board. That motion is going to council next week, so of course we'll just have to stay tuned to see how this unravels. That is it for today here on BC Now. Thank you so much for tuning in.